Today, we will talk about what is a living wage. A living wage refers to an income level that allows individuals and families to afford adequate shelter, food, and other necessities. It's meant to provide a satisfactory standard of living and prevent falling into poverty. The idea is that no more than 30% of this income should be spent on housing, and living wages are often substantially higher than the legal minimum wage. What constitutes a living wage may slightly vary depending on who's defining it. The general consensus is that a living wage provides enough income to support individuals without falling below the federal poverty line. It aims to maintain a decent standard of living so that workers and their families can afford essentials like housing, food, healthcare, and child services. The idea of a living wage dates back to early America when workers demanded higher pay. In 1938, Congress passed the Fair Labor Standards Act and established the first national minimum wage at 25 cents per hour. Since then, the debate about living wages has been ongoing, as many argue for an increase in the federal minimum wage to align with a living wage. The living wage is not the same as the minimum wage. A minimum wage is the lowest amount a worker can be paid hourly, determined by law. On the other hand, a living wage is the amount individuals or families would need to make to avoid living in poverty. It's usually higher than the minimum wage and is not mandated by law. The federal minimum wage of $7.25 an hour in many states is not enough to raise a family of four above the federal poverty level, which is $30,000 in 2023. This means that working and earning the federal minimum wage isn't enough to get out of poverty for families and is not considered a living wage. Supporters of a living wage argue that paying employees higher salaries benefits corporations as a whole, leading to increased employee satisfaction and reduced staff turnover. However, critics believe that implementing a living wage could have negative effects, such as harming the economy and leading to reduced hiring by companies. Earning a living wage means being able to pay for basic necessities, including shelter, food, healthcare, childcare, taxes, and transportation. The living wage may vary depending on circumstances, such as the state and town in which an individual lives. There are tools available, like the living wage calculator, that can help determine living wages in different areas. Some alternatives to a living wage include a livable federal minimum wage and a universal basic income from the federal government. The U.S. does not currently offer universal income, although there have been plans around universal income in the form of government-issued cash benefits. The livable wage in the United States varies state by state. For 2022, the highest livable wage is for Hawaii, amounting to $45,739, while the lowest livable wage is for South Dakota, in the amount of $30,888. Raising the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour from the current $7.25 an hour would still not provide a livable wage to many low-income adults and families in certain locations. Earning $15 per hour at a full-time job would equate to approximately $31,200 before taxes, meaning that this increase would still not meet a livable wage in most states. A minimum wage is the lowest amount a worker can be paid hourly determined by law, while a living wage refers to the amount an individual or family would need to make to avoid living in poverty. It's usually higher than the minimum wage and is not mandated by law. Here are 4 key takeaways. 1. A living wage ensures adequate coverage for basic necessities such as food, shelter, child services, and healthcare. 2. The living wage standard allows for no more than 30% to be spent on rent or a mortgage and is sufficiently higher than the poverty level. 3. The concept of living wages isn't new and dates back to early America when workers demanded higher pay. 4. The living wage shouldn't be confused with the minimum wage, which is the lowest amount of money someone can earn as mandated by law. Hope this would help. Thanks for watching.